CDC intro, take one. And
hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Draw the Cup with KayRay. I am so happy that you come here every so often to watch these episodes and see all these wonderful conversations I get to have with these wonderful guests. I would like to acknowledge all of our sponsors who obviously without them this show is not possible, so let's get to it. I would like to thank Spacebar Co-working for giving us the space to shoot Draw the Cup and really supporting artists like ourselves to give us a space where we can create beautiful things for all of you to watch. And of course, with all the decor, we have to give a huge shout out to the Eastern Bazaar for all these beautiful crystals to give us some good energy on this set. Please go check them out. With every purchase, you plant a tree, so it is an incredible thing that they're doing, and I hope that you go and support. We gotta give a shout out to the Glam Squad as well. And of course, we would like to give a huge shout out to Fujifilm and Insta-X for giving us this beautiful camera. As huge fans of Insta-X and Fujifilm, we believe our show aligns with these brands. Our team really values the nostalgia and feeling of capturing those timeless moments that analog Fujifilm and Insta-X provide. Through them, we are able to provide a keepsake for our guests, join the Fujifilm family, and create beautiful prints with the extraordinary Insta-X instant cameras and film. Without further ado, I am so excited to announce my next guest. She is a multiple threat artist with books, music, albums, exhibitions, plays. What else? Short films. There are so many things this artist does, and I'm so excited to have her back on the show. Everyone, please put your hands together for Vivek Shraya. Do you like my little audience? My live audience?
Do you add like a laugh track? I mean like a clap?
Of course I do.
Okay. I was like, it sounded just like, it's just bubbly back there.
You guys gotta do this with bubbly back there. Come on, yeah. That's a real clap.
Ah, that sounds nice.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
I am so excited to have you back. I know you were on our show since 2017.
Yeah, except last time I didn't get the video treatment.
You didn't, no.
I was just like in a little booth somewhere.
It was in a little closet.
Yeah, it was literally in a closet. And then I was
like,
like, and then you launched your podcast.
Yeah.
And there was all these videos, and I was like, I see what happened here. I got the little booth.
What happened is that you were actually our first audio episode that was a podcast.
Oh, that's what we're calling it, audio only.
Yeah, audio only podcast. And I was
exclusive,
trying to test it.
audio only.
Yeah, I'm like, literally, this is the cool new thing. Everyone's doing podcasts, right? I thought it was cool. And then I realized that, no, everyone wants video. And I was like, I was trying something, y'all. I don't know.
It's like, I'm back in Mississauga, and when I first moved to Toronto, I lived in Mississauga.
Did you? I didn't know that.
So I spent like 6 months here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I didn't have a really good experience. So this is like part of the healing for me, is doing this here. It was like 2003,
Whoa,
and it was like during, you weren't even alive then. It was during SARS. Do you remember SARS?
I had SARS.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I actually had it.
Oh no.
H1N1.
Oh no.
Yeah, I actually
This
had
got
it.
really serious.
Yeah, this is a real thing. I survived, y'all.
You survived.
Yeah.
I should interview you.
It was a horrible experience, yes.
I don't even know what to say now, because I was going to tell this sad story, but you had SARS, so like I think we're done here. I remember going to the hospital and like on Huron, Ontario, and it was like plastic sheets
did I have SARS?
everywhere.
No, I had swine flu. What is the thing?
Or did you have bird flu?
No, I had swine. It was H1N1. What is
Somebody please
Someone Google
help
that.
us.
Because
Swine flu? Okay.
It's swine flu. Sorry.
So you're trying to take something that anyways. So this is what I was going to say.
Well,
the story I was trying to tell you is that one of the things I used to do when I was unemployed as a treat is I would take myself to Square One Mall and like watch movies by myself. So I'm glad those days are over.
But I know you're a little bit of a movie critic. I will ask you.
Okay, sure,
yes.
yes.
So what is your favorite movie? Like, what are your top 5?
Oh my God, no, really?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the ones I really like this year. I saw this movie called Brittany Runs a Marathon.
Britney Spears?
No, not no.
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 Sorry, I don't know why we brought Britney Spears into this.
I love Britney, but I was like, again, I was thrown off because I'm like, you know who Britney is?
Yeah.
But I think in my mind you're like 15.
That's how I feel right now. Thanks, Mom, but okay, I'm actually a 29-year-old woman.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I'm
How are you
al-
feeling about 30?
It's coming. By the time this comes out, I
How are
might
you
be
feeling
already
about
30.
it?
R.I.P. me. I also wanted to talk about what we worked on last year, which was...
What did we work on?
Remember when we did this music video
Oh,
together?
yeah.
Yes. Diversity. Here is a clip of it right now.
Exotic baby, pay me.
I was so excited about working.
You
on
did
it
such an
'cause,
incredible job.
oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Bully and I.
Yeah, both
yeah.
of you just killed
Shut
it.
up. Thank
Basically, I mean, should we explain how it
Yeah.
came to be?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I heard of you, God, I feel like it was in 2016. You did that video in the car.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, what was the song? Or it was a bunch of songs?
Bunch of songs, Punjabi Mom through time.
Yeah, and it was so good. And I watched it over and over again. First of all, there's the looks, right? Like the looks just change all the time.
Yeah.
But it's also just so joyful.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
were you guys as happy as you've seen in that video? Or were you
Yes,
faking it?
No. We actually had a lot of fun.
You looked so happy. And I was just like, I sent it to everyone I knew. I was like, look at these brown girls, like this is the future. So then when our band was putting together, we wanted to put together a video for our song Diversity, I was like, it would be so great to just hand it over to someone who's so great, because you're a filmmaker as well.
Yeah.
And so it'd be so great to just hand it over to someone who's like vision and aesthetic I really trust and admire, and just
Yeah,
like
you
have
really
you,
did
I was
trust
like,
us.
here,
Yeah,
like,
you didn't even care what we came up with, and I was like, okay. What diversity looks like in this day and age. And do you want to talk about that?
yeah, I mean, I wrote it because, you know, I often get invited to things, so like, let's say like literary events or whatever, and often I feel like I'm like the token because
Yeah.
I check off a lot of boxes. Like with me, you get a brown person, you get a queer person, you get a trans person,
Yeah.
you just get to check off a lot of
Yeah.
boxes.
Yeah, you met the
and,
quota.
Yeah, and I mean, you probably have this experience too, but sometimes you show up and you're like, am I here because you respect me as an artist, or are you here because you're fitting the quota, so
Yeah.
to speak? You know, a lot of these conversations around diversity are good and they're important, but I think sometimes, though, especially the way that white people hear these conversations, it's like we need to just fill these quotas. And so the song was like, okay, like if I'm just a quota to you, then I need to get paid. So
Yeah.
the song is like, you know, if you want my story, pay me. And it's like, you know, if I'm gonna be that thing, then, you know, show me the money. But then it is deeper than that, right?
Yeah, of
Because it's
course.
like, but if you actually care about me, then all you have to do is hear me,
Yeah,
you know? So it's
yeah.
not, on the surface, it seems like it's just a song about getting paid,
Yeah.
which is cool, but it's actually just being like, what do you actually care about? Do you care about my humanity? And if you care about my humanity, then just gotta shut up and listen to me
Yeah,
speak, or
yeah.
just hear what I'm saying.
You know why people think like, oh, the starving artist, the struggling artist, like, but it's like there's so much work that goes into that, and we're not getting paid to do.
Well, and listen, there is money in the
There is,
arts.
that's
There's
the thing.
actually money in the arts. I
Yeah.
had this experience where I worked with like a white artist a couple years ago. And like it was like so mind-blowing to me because I come from this sort of like idea that there's no money in the arts. That's what we hear all the time. But I'm like, oh, wait a second, actually there is money and people will give money to the arts, but you have to look a certain way. And so like it's really changed how I think about funding in the arts.
Well, I also wanted to talk about the fact that you kind of did carve some space in these like white-dominated places. You were a Mac girl.
Well, I am.
You are.
I like in my mind. I'm like once a Mac girl, always a Mac girl.
Always,
right?
for sure. Yes. This, I mean, like
It's like
the
a Bond
first
girl.
time,
It's
yeah.
like you're a Mac girl. You're just always
always a Mac
so.
girl now,
you know,
yeah.
don't throw that past tense
No,
on me.
no,
You said
no,
was, and I
sorry.
was like, M.
Always, forever. What is this experience for you?
Yeah,
Being
I mean,
worldwide on the billboards, on the buses.
it's pretty surreal. Like the street. Did you see the streetcar?
I didn't see the streetcar. I saw the billboards and like the bus stands and everything, especially
I
on the
don't-
Gardner.
Yeah.
That one, I'm like,
Wait, it's on the Gardner?
it was on the Gardner.
Oh shoot! I never saw that
yeah,
one.
I tried to take a video, but I was about to crash into someone.
Shoot.
so I was-
I'm glad you lived.
yeah.
And so when I happened to be in Toronto and I like looked, and you know when you have that feeling where you see someone familiar, and I was like, I know that person. Then I was like, ah! Like it was just like, it's very cool to see because people would send me photos, but
To
I don't
see
know.
yourself is different.
It is, and like honestly, like, you know, for me the biggest thing is always my parents. I don't know if you feel this way, but it's
Yeah.
like as a brown kid, especially when you pursue the arts,
Yeah.
like you're kind of like a shame in your family. Like everyone else in my family is like doctors or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I'm always looking for things to impress my parents to be like,
Yeah.
look at this thing.
I'm always doing that.
And like Mac was like one of those things where I could like literally take them to a mall in Edmonton, any mall, and be like, hello, look. And my mom was like, she was like, oh, I used to wear Mac when I was like, and so for me, it was just like really beautiful to think about this sort of like legacy, especially like it was really nice to do something for a brand that I actually really care about.
Something else exciting happened last year, which we're gonna just talk about because coincidentally,
I swear I did not coordinate.
you just dressed
No,
like
I
your book.
like did not deliberately coordinate with this book.
But I had the pleasure of reading the book last year.
Thank you. It meant a
and-
lot to me that you
yeah,
read it.
and I read it in one sitting. Like,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, I couldn't put it down. And I think for me, it was like just understanding the way you've done it was really beautiful as well because you broke it up into two different sections. You had the you section, which was like exploring like what you've experienced as someone that was going through all these different experiences, but so many people, how they treated you through those experiences and how traumatizing that was for you. But you also talked about you, like me. There's
Yeah.
another part that it was called me, and that part was you exploring your
The
own
way that I've been part of that system. Exactly.
misogyny and the patriarchy and how it's inflicted like its own ideologies on you and how you have to unlearn that, and like there's so many things that I had to sit back and reflect for myself, the things I need to unlearn, the things that I could be maybe like there's, you know, underlining misogyny or underlining homophobia, whatever the things that we never realize we have, that you think you're doing all the work, but then there's
always more work to
There's
do.
always more work to do. So I think you've asked all these beautiful questions that really challenged me as well. But do you
That's
wanna...
so nice.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is there to say? I feel like you
Yeah.
just said it so perfectly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Afraid of Men started out as actually a song I wrote, and I was thinking a lot about the ways that my experiences with men in my life have shaped who I am, for better or for worse. You know how on an album there's like the songs that you like, and then there's the one that like you never like you skip.
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
delete those.
Oh.
But like I'm Afraid of Men was that song. Nobody ever talked about that song. So I was like, oh, this didn't really land. But then I was like, there's so much here that I want to explore more of. And so I ended up writing, I mean, I guess we call it a long form essay. And yeah, and it's exactly how you described. Like for me, you know, one of the things that really kills me is when people are like, yeah, I read your book, I hate men. And I'm like, you kind of miss the point.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's really unfortunate because I think that that's the place that a lot of people go, is that
Yeah.
if you talk about fear of the oppressor, that you're saying that you hate the oppressor. It's like if I say like I'm afraid of white people, then people assume that I'm saying I hate white people, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't hate white people.
Yeah.
But being afraid, and like actually for me, the tension of this book is that like as a queer person, I actually love men.
Yeah.
So it's like you can actually love somebody and be afraid of somebody. Like both of those things can be true at once, right? And so that's sort of what's at the heart of this book, is like how do you navigate masculinity in a world that, you know, where men can be and are often misogynistic. One story I talk about is like when I was in my previous relationship with a woman, the way that like there would be often times where she would be like washing the dishes all the time and cooking, and like, and I was in my 20s and I was a feminist and all these things, and yet like our relationship at times still very much fed into like very sexist roles. And you know, so for me it was really important that if I was going to write a book about masculinity, that it wasn't just with the finger out, and it was
Yeah.
also about having the finger in, you know,
Which
and just
is
like
why I admired it so much.
thank
too.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to call yourself out too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted, to be honest, I wanted to call out everybody, because I
Yeah.
think that there's this idea that certain groups, like I even talk about women in this book, and the way that like women participate in you know, misogynistic behavior, and I call it men of color, because then there's also this idea that if you're marginalized, then that
We're
you
all on the same spectrum.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
we don't, that we're not, you know, discriminatory. You know, like a lot of like queer men feel like because they're queer, you know, that they're not harmful towards women. And I talk about how, you know, I remember going to the gay bar
Yes.
as a teenager, and like gay men would just like and I'd have like straight women friends with me, and gay men would like touch their breasts or just like fondle them. And
I remember
it's
that.
like it's such a terrible thing that happens. And you know, we would say something to these guys, and they'd be like, "I'm gay, I don't care." And it's like, okay, so just because you're gay, it means you can touch a woman's body, and how does that make you any different than a straight man who does that, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I'm coming for everyone with this book,
Yeah.
including myself,
Right.
because I think that that's the only way we move the conversation forward, is if we all recognize that we all play a role in, you know, the patriarchy or in misogyny. We're all part of that, you
Yeah.
know? And like you said, like you think you're doing the work, but there's always more work to be done. And that's actually a beautiful thing, right? That's actually a wonderful thing about being human, is like finding out that actually we're not that perfect and that there's more that we can do.
Always. So there's a new thing that you worked on, and I really wanted to talk about it.
Oh,
So
shoot.
you have a new book.
I have a new book. Oh yeah,
out,
Death Threat.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
It's like, I feel like it's like so grim. It's like, I'm afraid of men. Your new book, Death Threat. I just seem like, this is why I keep making jokes, because
Yeah.
I just don't want them to think that
No,
I'm just
I
like
know.
sit at home and I'm just like, the rain cloud is over me and I'm just like,
Eeyore.
Eeyore.
Yeah.
A year or so ago, I started getting hate mail from a stranger. You know, like I get trolled like any other person, but like obviously the more marginalized you are, I think you get more trolled on the internet. So, you know, I get like the tranny thing or whatever, and I usually, it's so interesting to see how some people navigate trolls. They respond to them or they retweet them with a comment, but like I just like block it right away.
Yeah,
Like for me, it's just
same.
like don't have the emotional energy, and then after a while I start taking it in, which I don't want to do. It's a really awful thing, so I just like block it right away. But this person, their messages, first of all, they included their full name and address, which, you know, the thing that I've said so much about Death Threat is like, you know, I feel like trolls back in the day had the decency to like block their face or block their names, but now they just bullface use their own accounts, and they're like, they're not even ashamed. And part of it is because there's no human resources of Twitter. Like, I mean, you can block someone, but then they just go do it to someone else.
Or they make new accounts. And
Exactly, so people know that they get away with it. So
Yeah.
it's like, for me, when this person sent me this message and had their full name and address, like that was one of the most terrifying things, because I was like, oh, this person's alive. They're not like a fiction of the internet. And also the messages that they were sending, for the lack of a better word, were very poetic. So it wasn't your usual like, you should die, I want you to die, you're abnormal or whatever. It was like, I've been chanting your name around the house, hoping your name will die. And like they use like either like Hindi text or Sanskrit text, and then they started talking about my mom, and they're like, you should see a Vaidya, and they'll take you into a mud hut, and then you'll reveal your true gender, which is a man, and your mom's so disappointed in you, and my mom has been hunting in the woods for you.
Oh my
like
God,
just
stop
like
it.
very,
This is
it was
so
very
creepy.
disturbing.
I feel like this is like the most disturbing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, part of what like was disturbing is like they're referencing my parents, they're
Right.
referencing my culture,
Yeah.
they're like using Indian language.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it was like, you know, because I started imagining it, then suddenly I was like, oh, what if this is a graphic novel? It was very weird, like because I kept seeing these images, because it kind of wrote itself, I started
The
imagining
images
it.
that I've seen are so amazing.
Yeah, and so I reached out to Nestle, who's an incredible illustrator in Toronto. She's like got artwork like all over the city, and I was like, do you want to make this wacky book with me, where we basically make
Trolls.
we make art out of hate, and we like basically making this graphic novel where we like literally took these letters and then she made a comic out of it. It was a way to kind of like take the piss out of them in a way. Can I tell you an exclusive?
Yeah.
You're in my novel.
I am.
You are in my novel.
I am.
Yeah, you are.
What?
Yeah.
I'm in academics.
It's not an academic book.
Would anyone know what the book
Your
in
name,
academia?
your name. So yeah, one of my new projects is called The Subtweet. I really wanted to write something that like looked into social media and like looked into like call out culture and also like jealousy and also wanting to write something about female friendship, because so many stories with women still revolve around men. There's something called, have you heard of the Alison Bechdel test? No. Basically, a movie will pass the test if the scenes with the two women who talk to each other don't have conversations about men. So you can imagine how few movies pass that test, right? So for me, this like book was very much about like, I want to write like an Alison Bechdel test kind of book about like brown girls. So it's like 4 brown women and their friendship, they're musicians, and how they navigate like becoming friends through social media, but also being musicians. But it's also like a love letter to brown women and like brown art. And so, but one of my characters, no, this isn't a big deal, but one of my characters gets really into YouTube,
Yeah.
and one of her favorite people to watch is you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Yes, you're in the book.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're in
That's
print.
So sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's so nice. I can't wait to see it and read it.
Yeah. Well,
hold it in my
you're
arms.
on the advanced reading copy list, so
Oh my
you should get it
God.
soon.
Yeah. Amazing. When's that coming out?
That's coming out in April, and then the other project I'm working on is a play, and it's called How to Fail as a Pop Star.
Yeah, I
So
saw
like,
that.
yeah, and so that will be in Toronto for 12 days at
Oh my
Canadian
God.
Stage. I've never done theater before, and I just like, I mean, kind of like you, I just want to try everything.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
And I started thinking a lot about like my own music story and like how I'd love to tell my music story someday. But the problem is like of all of the art forms I've explored, music has been like maybe like my most least successful, and it's also been the thing that it's where I actually started. And so I started thinking about like, you know, like this movie that A Star Is Born came out, and so
Yeah.
I've been calling this kind of like A Star Isn't Born. Like what happens when you have this ambition and it doesn't come true? And I think a lot of us, like failure is one of those things where we have to pretend, you know, anytime you say to someone, I failed, they're like, no, look at, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. But like music is one of those things where it's like music is a young industry. And so for me, most likely, like, you know, I'm still making music, I'm still passionate about it, but like my goal was to be like on Saturday Night Live. And like, I've had to really reconcile that those things probably won't happen. And so, and that there's not like shame in that, to like honor the fact that I tried. And so the play is very much about like what it means for like a brown kid in Edmonton who's queer and like has immigrant parents who's like, I want to be a rock star, I want to be a pop star. And like, yeah, and just like, how do you reconcile when your dreams don't come true?
It's so crazy that you're saying that because I feel like I've been like experiencing that with myself. Like, oh my God.
Well,
I'm
especially turning 30.
Yeah,
That's when
I
it started
think-
to happen for me.
Yeah, I'm having like this like, oh my God, I should have been here by now. I should have done, and like just like the should haves are the worst.
And it's hard, like listen, like I'm still so proud to be an artist. Like not becoming a musician was like actually what made me a writer, and I started being creative in other ways. And it doesn't mean you don't stop trying. It doesn't mean you don't stop doing other things.
Yeah.
But like this thing might never happen, and
Right.
I just want to honor the fact. Like it's not about like looking on the bright side. It's about being like this thing didn't happen, and I just got to keep live. How do you live with failure? Essentially, is like the sort of central question, right?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the nice thing about the play, I will say, is it in a lot of ways it gives me the opportunity
To do it. That's what
right?
I'm
Because I get
saying.
12 nights, I get to dress up, I get to sing
So
these
amazing.
songs,
You get
I
to
get to
do
tell
it.
my story. So it's like, you know, I get to live the dream for a couple nights,
yeah,
you know, which is nice.
Gonna be so
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, totally.
I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna be there. So I wanted to play a quick game with you.
Okay. Are you gonna say a lyric to me and then I have
Yes.
to? Oh shoot! I'm so stressed. I don't know why.
I'm so excited. That's all I got in the end. That's what I found out, and it ain't no need to cry.
My best friend, me, myself, and I.
Yeah, but sing the lyric.
Oh, you didn't say I had to sing
Yeah,
it.
you have to finish the lyric. Of course you're gonna know.
You
the
just
song.
changed the rules.
No, you're gonna, and I'm
And the
trying
way
so
you're
hard.
reading it,
I'm
it's so
not-
straight.
I
I'm
know,
like,
I'm trying so
like,
hard
did
not
my
to
mom
sing.
write these lyrics? Like, I don't even know. Like, you're not even using any inflection. It's like, I don't want to.
I
like,
can't.
And then when I crossed the road, I saw the light. Sing.
That's all I got in the end. That's what I found out, and it ain't no need to cry.
Because from now on, I'm gonna be my own best friend.
Clock strikes upon the hour, and the sun begins to fade. Still enough time to figure out. You do know the song.
I don't.
You do know the song.
Clocks begin to fire. Okay, it's Beyonce?
No.
Are these all Beyonce songs? Okay, who is it?
It's Whitney Houston.
Oh, she's my fave.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay, sing the line again. What is this?
Clock strikes.
Glock strikes.
You know what? You
I just
fail.
don't know it. I don't know it. I'm sorry,
How
Whitney.
to chase my blues away. Dance with somebody.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry, Whitney. I love you.
Oh, when you walk by every night. Talking
When
sweet.
you walk by every night, talking sweet and looking fine, I get kinda hectic inside. Oh, baby, I'm so into you, darling. If you only knew all the things that go through my mind, 'cause it's just a
The shoes on my feet, I bought it.
shoes on my feet, I bought it. Clothes I'm wearing, I run it. Rock I'm wearing, I bought it. I depend on me. All the women independent, throw your hands up at me.
That's it. That's it. You got them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there you
That was the
go.
most stressful game ever. Oh, that's nice. They have to clap. They're like,
How can people find you?
on the socials. VIVEK SHRAYA. Is it going to spell out? Can we
let's
do
it.
that?
Yeah, do it exactly
Okay.
like magic.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Namaskar.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you go and like, subscribe, comment, do all the things the internet makes you go and do. Please help us, support us, watch this series, all right? Goodbye.